Hello and welcome to Creator Weekly Live for December 22nd, 2024. I'm Peggy K. Today you can see I'm in the holiday mood. And this is the last regular live stream of the year because I'm expecting there not to be significant updates over the next week. But next Sunday, I'll be here. It will be a Happy New Year edition, kind of looking back at the year and to say thank you for everyone who's been viewing. So this week, it really felt like YouTube and all the other companies, they really needed to push out all of those features they wanted to get out by the end of the year. So there's a bunch of updates this week. As always, you can get more information and links to this week's updates in my newsletter and blog post. There are links in the video description. Thank you for joining me live today. And I'd really like to hear what you think about this week's updates. So I'm going to start with several YouTube updates. The first update is that YouTube sent out an email with the 2024 Creator Recap. It has highlights of things like number of videos and views and new subscribers, your top video, your top live stream, your top short. I don't actually know how YouTube is sending these out because I have this channel and some test channels, and like I got a recap for this channel and for a test channel that only had one view the past year. So it doesn't require you to be in the YouTube Partner Program or anything like that. You do probably have to be opted in to get creator updates and announcement emails. If you are not signed up for getting emails, then you probably won't get one. You can check that in your YouTube channel settings on desktop under notifications. So check that out. Now, the big update this week is that YouTube now lets you go into your settings and opt in to allowing your content to be used by third parties for AI training. So the idea is that this is not opt out, this is opt in, and you can signify, you can say, yes, use my channel content for training your AI models. Now, this setting is in YouTube Studio on desktop under your settings, and then go to the channel settings and then advanced. And you can choose to allow all companies to use your content for training or specify specific companies. And you'll see a whole list there. It's probably all the companies that you've heard of and some companies you haven't heard of. It's Adobe and Meta and OpenAI and ByteDance, Apple, XAI, all of them there. You can choose if there's this one you want to allow. Now, the important thing to keep in mind with this, first of all, is that if you have multiple rights holders for your video, everyone has to opt in. That means if you have a content ID claim on the music on your video, that claimant would have to opt in for AI training as well. And note that when you set this, that status is publicly available. Of course, it has to be for the companies to be able to actually see that you're allowing them to use it for training. This setting does not control whether Google or YouTube use your content for AI training. They almost certainly do. They've been, they don't really come out and say explicitly what they do, but they probably do. This is for third-party companies, so not Google, not YouTube. And of course, always the big thing is that Google can't actually control what these other companies do with your data. So this is maybe is more symbolic than other things. A lot of these companies have almost certainly scraped any public videos already. But going forward, you can at least say, look, I didn't actually give explicit permission for this. So we'll see what happens. I want to say hello to everybody who is in the live chat today. I see Andrew and Jolyn and Craig. Welcome. Love to hear what you think about this week's updates. Are any of you guys allowing these third-party companies to use your YouTube data for training? I have it turned off. I don't actually see the direct benefit of this. It maybe is good if you have a message to get out, or you're using your YouTube channel for self-promotion, something like that. Maybe it's worthwhile. Yeah, I don't know. I don't see the benefit. Some people might. So a few other small YouTube updates this week. The first thing is that YouTube is rolling out super chat goals to all creators in the YouTube Partner Program that have supers enabled. And you can check this by going into YouTube Studio and going to the Earn tab. It will show you if you've enabled supers. It's like a tip jar, and the idea is then I, as the creator, can go into the live chat for my premiere or live stream that's scheduled, and there's a button now that says goal. I feel like I should say that like the announcer. And what you see, if you do that, you can set a goal of a certain number of super chats. You can choose color, and you can set a timer for this. And then you can importantly say, well, this is what I'll do if I meet the goal. I guess I could have done that for this live stream. I'm not sure what I would do. I'm thinking about these new things to try. I think it's actually potentially kind of fun, although it feels weird to me to say, hey, please just give me money directly. I'm just weird about it. So this is something that YouTube promised a few months ago, and they've rolled it out. The other small update is that if you are live streaming from the YouTube mobile app, you can now add a sticker for Q&A. So it's like in this example from the announcement, it's like, oh, what color should I dye my hair next? And then people can respond in the comments. So it's a way to boost engagement. There's also a sticker where you can put a poll. It seems like mobile live streaming is something that, or at least vertical live streaming is something that YouTube is kind of pushing. So many things. I looked at the vertical live streams. You can see those from the Shorts feed. If you're on the Shorts feed in mobile, there's a live button at the top, and people just go live and they don't have a plan or anything and just chat. Maybe I'll try that. So maybe in the new year I'll try vertical live streaming. I'm saying folks talking about whether you're allowing the AI training third parties. Andrew says no. Jolyn says I'll wait until I actually need a YouTube feature that requires it. Yeah, I don't think it's going to ever be required to do this, but we'll see. And I want to say, Andrew says, thank you for sending the newsletter on Saturday. It allows me to read it ahead of time so I can know what I really want to pay attention to. Okay, that's good. So the timing works. And that's kind of the idea also for me. Um, I write the newsletter. It takes me some time, but it really helps me actually to have a day to kind of step back from it and look and say, this is what I want to talk about in the live stream. So many things. At least most companies don't launch things on Saturdays. That would really throw me off. And the other YouTube update is that YouTube is taking a stand and taking action against what they call egregious clickbait. And this is where the video has a title or thumbnail that promises something that the video doesn't deliver, to put it simply. And the examples they use are a video title that says, "The president resigned," when the video doesn't actually address the president's resignation, or a thumbnail that says, "Top political news," on a video that doesn't include any news coverage. Those are obvious clickbait. It's really interesting, I think, that they seem to be focused on sort of news-related clickbait. This is a problem everywhere, but they are starting this enforcement in India. So initially, over the next few months, in India, they're going to start enforcing this policy, and they will remove content, but initially people won't get a community guidelines strike for it to kind of get used to the new policy. I think it's interesting because this is a problem everywhere, and obviously not just for news. So I think that this will be interesting to see how this works. Maybe in the new year, there'll be less clickbaity things. So I also wanted to say thank you all for joining me every week. Do this. Thank you for reading the newsletter. I do appreciate that it's not just me who is interested in these things. So going into the new year, if there's more certain things you're interested in, things you want to see about, I'm always here to listen and get suggestions. If there's something I'm not covering that you like, let me know. And thanks again for reading. So the last thing I wanted to talk about video-wise, if you use CapCut. So CapCut is video editing software from ByteDance. That's the same parent company as TikTok. CapCut's very popular. It has lots of themes. You can see trending themes and lots of AI-powered tools and stuff. And what they're doing is they increased the subscription rate, and they put a bunch of their tools, especially AI-powered tools, behind a paywall. So you have to have a pro account to use them. And this is causing a lot of negative discussion. I'm looking at it, the subscription rates don't seem unreasonable. They're comparable to most other video editing software. And if you're using it all the time, it's probably worth doing it. But what's been kind of sucky is that they did this without any warning. So I've been using CapCut mostly for removing backgrounds, like when I made a video with myself on top of things. I use it to remove the background and for automatic captions. And the last time I used it, both of those said, "Oh, you need a pro account to do that." I'm like, what the heck? There wasn't any warning about this, which feels kind of sleazy. So this is also kind of a weird situation because TikTok could be banned in the US starting January 19th, and that almost certainly will include the entire family of ByteDance's software. That includes the CapCut editor, and there's a photo app called Lemon 8. I would not buy an annual subscription to CapCut right now if there's a potential it won't be available a month from now. So it's kind of a weird situation. And I wanted to actually give a plug to the YouTube Create app. This is not available everywhere yet, and it's only for Android, but it works pretty well, and it's totally free. Now, who knows what will happen in the future? Totally free. You can do things like remove your background and layer videos and add captions. It is not as full-featured as CapCut, and it doesn't have all the themes and templates and so forth. But if you just want a video editor that you can use on your mobile device, it works great. So that's my plug. And I think January is going to be an interesting month. Craig says, some of my followers are using TikTok still. Yeah, I think tons and tons of people are using TikTok still. I think, especially for people who have built a following there or doing really successful videos there, hopefully they are branching out onto other platforms, just to not have all their eggs in one basket, but they might as well keep posting there as well. And what I've been reading, I don't really use TikTok much except to follow links sometimes, but it's just different there. It's not the same on YouTube, even with shorts. It's not the same on Instagram with Reels. It's its own thing. It has this discovery feed that is, that's their secret sauce, that people can just open the TikTok app and start seeing videos that they're interested in. What's going to happen? I don't know. So we will see a month from now what the deal is. They may come to some sort of deal. I kind of feel like they probably are unlikely to sell that part of the business off so it can stay in the US, or they would sell it off without their special algorithm because that's what's making it work for them. We shall see. So a couple updates for AdSense. If you are using AdSense for your blog or website. So the first thing is, again, if you're using AdSense for content, this is for putting ads on your own blog or website, you should have received an email that says the publisher policies are going to update in February. I looked at them. You can actually see a post on my blog. Again, it's linked in this week's newsletter. What is mainly different is the part of the policy that has to do with identifying users. Now, Google says these changes are because of advances in privacy-enhancing technologies, and also because of the broader range of types of devices where ads may show. So things like game consoles and smart TVs. So if you compare the policies, this is the current policy. You probably can't read that, but I'll say the current policy prohibits using device fingerprints or locally shared objects like flash cookies, browser helper objects, HTML5 local storage, other than HTTP cookies or user resettable mobile device identifiers designed for use in advertising. All right. The new terms that go into effect in February, it no longer forbids those tracking methods. Now it says, disclose clearly any data collection, sharing, and usage that takes place in connection with your use of Google services, including information about the technologies used, such as your use of cookies, web beacons, IP addresses, or other identifiers. This applies for data collection, sharing, and usage on any platform, surface, or property, web, app, connected TV, gaming console, or email publication. And then to comply with this disclosure obligation with respect to Google's uses of data, you have the option to display a link to that information that Google provides, you need to have a privacy policy. That's been the case for years. And you need to have information that says this is what Google is doing with your data when ads are served to people. All right, so this is notable, again, that it does not actually forbid the use of things like device fingerprints or locally shared objects. Probably no one is using flash cookies anymore. But this has led to some speculation. Well, it's not actually speculation. So basically, the deal seems to be that Google needs to track people, to show people ads that are relevant. So there needs to be some tracking there. And Google is saying, well, we're going to use these tracking methods we didn't use before because there have been improvements in the technology that we can do this without violating people's privacy. There have been several articles that I've seen that says, Google is tracking you now. And yeah, that's probably true. I don't know if it's a big deal or not. I don't know enough about the new technologies to know if they actually protect people's privacy. But I seem to be having a problem with the live stream. I hope you can see this and there isn't a serious problem. Let me check and see in the app if we're still okay. And I am trying to figure out what to do here. My channel. And this seems to be okay. You guys say no problem with the live stream. I got an error message that says, I don't know what the deal is. Good to hear everything is working fine. That's the fun of doing things live. I have no idea what the error message meant. Okay. I'm glad you can see and hear. So anyway, that's the story with these AdSense policy update. If you are an AdSense publisher on your own website or blog, you should make sure that your privacy policy is up to date. You have all this information that you need to disclose. That's the story there. So the other update for AdSense is that it is now allowing some users in the US to select PayPal Hyperwallets as a payment method. So this is just a brand new thing, not available to everyone. And this is information from the YouTube Help Center. If you click that, it goes to a link in the AdSense Help Center that not everyone can see. You have to have an AdSense account and you have to be in the US. So the ideal is that a PayPal Hyperwallet, this is not your personal PayPal account. This is a payments account. So you set this up and you have to go through identity verification there and so forth. But the advantage to using that as a payment method for AdSense or AdSense for YouTube is that you can then cash out that account into a regular PayPal account or Venmo or a bunch of other payment methods. So this just is an expansion of payment methods. Going into the new year, I expect to see that available to more users. So I am going to shift gears just a little and talk about the weirdness on WordPress. It's drama all the way down. Just as a brief update, there's this legal dispute between WP Engine, which provides WordPress services, and Matt Mullenweg, who's the one of the founders of WordPress and the owner of WordPress.com is part of his company Automatic, that's a hosting company, and the owner of WordPress.org, which is the repository with things like themes and plugins and everything. And that WordPress.org is sort of baked into WordPress. It's the default where people go for updates. So Matt Mullenweg lost this preliminary injunction last week. He had been basically blocking WP Engine from accessing WordPress.org. There was like a checkbox. People had to say, no, I'm not associated with WP Engine. But now the judge said, no, you have to go back to the way it was before all this dispute started. And the first thing that he did was change that checkbox to say, I love pineapple on pizza, and you had to check this box to sign into WordPress.org. It's totally childish, totally stupid, in my opinion. And then a few days later, he made this announcement, there's a holiday break. And he frames it as being for the volunteers who work on the WordPress open source project, that they won't be allowing submissions of new plugins, submissions of new themes, submissions of photos, no reviews of plugin updates. Oh, we're on holiday. But if you read on in the announcement, this is not about giving volunteers a break. So basically, and no new account registrations. So you read on and you see, this is what he said. I hope to find the time, energy, and money to reopen all of this again sometime in the new year. Right now, much of the time I'd spend making WordPress better is taken up defending against WP Engine's legal attacks. Their attacks are against Automatic, but also me individually as the owner of WordPress.org, which means if they win, I can be personally liable for millions of dollars in damages. Okay, so, this is a dispute that Matt Mullenweg started. I have little sympathy for him about that. But it's concerning that he says, oh, maybe I'll reopen sometime in the new year, because WordPress.org is where everyone goes to get their plugin updates and their themes. And up until all of this, it was kind of assumed that WordPress.org was owned by the WordPress Foundation. And it turns out it's Matt's personal website. This seems like a bad situation. The whole WordPress community should not be affected because Matt Mullenweg got into this dispute. I don't know what's going to happen, but there are some prominent people in the WordPress community saying, look, this is not working to have Matt as the benevolent dictator, because if he goes off the rails a little bit, that affects everyone. It's sort of coming to a head. I think that this situation can't really stand the way it is if WordPress is going to be for enterprise and people are going to trust it. Resources can't be taken away by just one person because they're in a dispute with someone. I want to say hi to Eileen coming, and yes, I'm. It says, thank you for the WordPress updates. I have not been keeping up on this news. Yeah, honestly, it's sort of like watching a car wreck. But, for most people who use WordPress, this is not going to affect them directly. But I think there's a longer term potential where companies who are currently offering WordPress management, WordPress services, are just going to say, forget about it, we're not going to do this. And for example, this is a problem because they have these WordCamps, these are meetups. conferences for people who use WordPress. Matt implemented a requirement that people have a WordPress.org account to sign up for a WordCamp. This was to prevent people who are employed by WP Engine from going to WordCamps. So it's part of this dispute. And because WordPress.org is on holiday, no new accounts could be made. So that was affecting people from signing up for WordCamps, which are now have registration open. They had to make a special exception to allow people who are on the WordCamp sign-up page to go to WordPress.org to create an account there. The whole thing is stupid. Again, I don't think this can stand. And Andrew says, the hosting companies will eventually drop WordPress if this goes on. Yeah, I think that's the big risk. So we shall see. Okay, I wanted to also note, I'm going to go a little bit longer than usual. I don't have another live stream after this. So that's why I'm still talking. A few other updates just to get through them. If you go to Threads, Threads is Meta's sort of Twitter-esque platform. They have a new feature. It's sort of controversial, where people can go and you can reshare just the photos or video from a post rather than resharing the entire post. So there's a share media option. And when you share the media, it links back to it does not link back to the original post, but it does give the original poster a credit. I mean, part of the problem is that it does not link back to the original post. It loses all the context, and I think a lot of photographers are not particularly keen on this. You can turn it off. You can go into the settings of your Threads account and turn it off for everything, or you can turn it off on individual posts. So that is an update to Threads. I think this is supposed to be some way of working with the fact that people download these photos and videos and re-upload them, but it's still not great. So I'm thinking, I don't know what they're doing. But if you're on Threads, you may be able to just reshare media if you see it. Over on Bluesky, Bluesky has a new version, a big update. The two updates I think are most notable is that first, if you change your handle to a domain, and that's the way they have verified accounts, you have your own domain and then your handle is your domain. So it shows that you're allowed to do that. Previously, you would lose your old Bluesky handle. Now that Bluesky handle is reserved for you, so you won't have someone else snapping up your old handle. This seems like a good update. Also, in notifications, they now have a separate column for mentions. That's really important if you get a lot of mentions, to have those separated out from the rest of your notifications. So those were the main updates I wanted to talk about. But one of the big themes this year is federation and the social web. And I'm just sharing this because I think this is really cool. This is a new service from Flipboard. Flipboard is sort of a magazine app. You can follow magazines there and feeds and so forth. The idea is that you can make your own feeds. You're not limited to the feed on just one social media platform. Instead, you can combine posts and people from Bluesky, Mastodon, Threads, Flipboard, YouTube, anything with a RSS feed, so that'd be blogs and news sites. And so you add all your favorite sources and you can filter them into a particular topic feed. So basically, instead of using some platform's algorithmic feed to follow content, you're creating your own custom feeds. This is great. This is sort of what a feed reader lets you do, but this is kind of on steroids, where you can make it look really nice and there's more filters and new feeds. Um, Andrew said, I'm sorry, Craig says, who has time for more social? I think the idea is that this gives you more time because you create your own feeds and then you just go here instead of going to, 4 different social platforms. It's all in one place. It's neat. I signed up for the beta. I don't have access yet, but I think that this has a lot of potential for people like me, at least, who are using multiple platforms. The other thing I wanted to share with you guys to try is a new AI tool from Google called Whisk. So think like whisking eggs or something like that. This is easier than a lot of the generative AI platforms because what it lets you do is add an image for the subject, an image for the scene, and an image for the style. And then it uses Gemini on the back end to describe those images that you've put as the starting point, and Gemini creates a detailed prompt. You can see the prompt that it creates, you can edit it, but you don't have to. So this is something I did. I'm not that creative. So I included the photo of a raccoon for the subject. The scene is a racetrack, and the style was supposed to be Monet's water lilies style. And you can see then it generates images based on those inputs. It makes something entirely new. It's kind of fun to play with. It's a toy. Again, it's not, a lot of these generative AI things aren't really useful tools, but they're kind of fun to play with occasionally. And one of the things that I think is interesting is with this tool, you can actually see how a good prompt is constructed. It's really long. And yeah, and you can make raccoons at the racetrack. Who doesn't need an image of raccoons at a racetrack, right? So those are this week's updates. And let me see. I also found really quickly, there's a link to this. There is a site called OpenView. It is basically a search engine for usable, shareable images and audio. Everything is either in the public domain or has a Creative Commons license. You can use this search engine to find these works, and you can filter by license type, which is nice. And you can do a filter that says, only show me things that I can use commercially, or that I can remix, or that don't require attribution. So you can kind of see what it looks like. If you do a search, you can use one of these filters. And then I just want to end today with a statement from Adam Mosseri. So Adam Mosseri, he's the head of Instagram and Threads, and he made this interesting statement. He says, our role as internet platforms is to label content generated as AI as best we can. But some content will inevitably slip through the cracks, and not all misrepresentations will be generated with AI. So we must also provide context about who is sharing so you can assess for yourself how much you want to trust their content. So this is a kind of an important idea. And I think, on the one hand, I think this is totally true. I think that the way social media feeds work is a lot of times you see these images out of context and it's like, oh, that looks neat. And then people will click like and it gets spread that way. But what it's saying is you should actually look at who the original source is for these images to see whether you trust it. Now, the downside of this is that most people are not going to do that. Most people don't investigate. There's all these weird AI shrimp Jesus AI images that are spreading on Facebook because people like the vibe or something. So I don't think this really works. I think that this is a statement to say, oh, we as a platform, it's not our fault. It's not our problem. We try our best, but it's really up to you as the user to determine if something's trustworthy or not. And I think that that just doesn't happen. So there isn't any good solution to the potential for misinformation. The video generators are getting so much better. The image generation is so much better. It's really hard to separate out the real from the not real. So yes, you have to find people that you trust, but so much of this really spreads on kind of vibes. And there's even people you would think would be trustworthy who are fooled by some of these images and video clips. Not great going into the new year, but we'll see how that works. So that's all I have today. Thank you so much for sticking with me on the extra long episode this week. Next week, I will be doing a sort of annual recap. I'm hoping there aren't any big updates. I hope you can join me again next Sunday. Thank you so much for joining me this week. I hope you have a fabulous holiday, and I will see you